Hi there, Lisa here. I have another pocket idea to share with you today. I started making pockets with the tutorial videos with this little double envelope, and this was so cute. And I really liked the way that it folded, that it led me to making the double crisscross pocket. And I did share this with you in another video. I really like the geometry of this and the angles. I thought it looked really neat. And as I was sitting on my table today and I was working on something completely different, I was working on little notepads today with scrapbook paper. I just kept looking at it and looking at it and thought, you know what? Maybe I can do something that actually has that same angle that's got more pocket tabs on it so that I can make use of the whole entire width of the pocket. And that's what I came up with today was a pocket that has pocket tabs on the inside. I like using the pre-made manila tags, stamping photographs, journaling, whatever. You can cut them down to fit in whatever you want to put them in. But for me, when I'm making a pocket, I want it to be 3.5 inches wide because I use so many of these. And at 3.5 inches, you can put quite a few of these in a pocket and it doesn't start bulging. You can also put photographs on here. You can journal on them. You can do all kinds of things with these manila tags. So at 3.5 inches, I really want to make sure that I get all of the 3.5 inches on the inside of a pocket. So I did this with scrapbook paper today. I also did make it out of a piece of hand dyed paper, and I had to use the legal size to get the length I needed to make this one. I really like the way this turned out and the way it looks. I think this is really super sweet. And I'm also going to show you a way that you can attach this as a hinging pocket, and so it doesn't have to be a floating pocket if you don't want it to be. So because I started with 12 by 12 scrapbook paper today, I wanted to be able to get two of them out of a sheet. So that's what I did. And I took a piece of scrapbook paper and I cut it in half at 6 inches so that I could get two of them. This is a little busy for tutorial purposes, so I'm going to use the legal size piece of paper because I can draw lines on it and it'll make it easier for you to see. Just know that this is where I started, and I really like the scrapbook paper look too. I think it's really fun. You don't have to do a whole lot to it to add some color and some interest to something inside your journal. So let's start with that piece of paper. And this is a legal size piece of paper. It's 8.5 by 14. You need 11.5 inches to make this little pocket. So we're going to cut this to 11.5 by 6. 11.5 by 6 would be the same exact measurements if I were using this scrapbook paper. We're going to keep this piece that we cut off first. This is going to be our hinge a little bit later on, so don't let that go too far away. We're going to use that. So here's our piece of paper. Your scoreboard will be next. First thing we're going to do is score the bottom edge. So if you were using something directional, you would want this to be the bottom edge of your paper. So these pumpkins on here are pretty directional, so I wanted to make sure that this will be the bottom of the pocket. So we're going to score this at 1/2 inch, being careful not to poke a hole. 1/2 inch all the way down. I'm going to turn it and score it at 1/2 inch again. 1/2 inch, 4 inches, 4 inches, 7.5, making sure that I'm up tight at the top and I'm not drifting, 7.5, and 11, 11 inches. I'm going to flip this bottom to top, and I'm just going to go over those score lines again, just so I can get a crisper fold on this thin copy paper. This is not the 24-pound paper I really like to use, so I want to make sure that I can get a really nice crisp fold. So 1/2 inch, 4, 7.5, and 11 inches. While I have this right here in my scoreboard, this piece of paper, over here on the left-hand side, there's a ruler that goes all the way down the side of the scoreboard. I'm going to make a mark across that score line at 3 inches. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just kind of sort of has to be there. So Real quick, I'm going to draw in those score lines that I made so that you can see a little bit better what we're going to be doing. So 7.5, I've got one here at 11, and then this one here at 1/2 inch. And then we did one across the bottom here at 1/2 inch. So this is just so for demo purposes, so it's a little easier for you to see on camera. I'm going to flip this over to the grungy side so this white piece of paper will show up a little bit better. I'm going to draw a line from the top of this score line to that 3-inch mark over here on the left-hand side. This doesn't have to be precise. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just the angle that we're going to cut for that pocket. We're going to connecting that score line to that 3-inch mark that we made over here. We're going to remove this center section down here at the bottom. So we're going to remove this. We're going to remove this. And over here on this side, we're going to measure down 2 inches and make a mark across that score line, and 2 inches over here and make a mark across that score line. And we're going to connect those two. That's going to be the little half pocket that's on the back. Okay, so you can either scissors, craft knife, paper trimmer, whatever works for you. I'm going to notch these here at the bottom. It makes it easier to get that center piece out. So I'm just cutting up to that score line there at the bottom, and I'm cutting right on this score line, just notching, super simple. I think I'm going to use my craft knife today. And just going to take that center piece out. Whoops, I think I need a new blade. We're going to take off this corner here as well. So while I have it laying in this direction, just going to cut that off. I definitely need a new blade in my craft knife. And for this one here, I think I'm going to use my trimmer for this one. It'll just be easier for me. So I want to set this edge. Again, this is the section we're removing right here. I want to set this edge at the 2-inch mark on my trimmer. And I'm just going to cut up to that score line I've got going right here, and I'm going to stop just shy of it. I'm going to rotate that and line up that score line on the ditch of my trimmer and come back and cut the rest of that corner out. Okay, so here's that 1/2 inch line that or the 1/2 inch score line we did for the bottom of the pocket. So we need to take care of this corner and this corner so that we can fold these a little bit easier and they'll lie flat. So you want to cut right across where those two score lines meet, just right across it. And that's going to take out the excess bulk and allow those to lie flat. Little tabs get folded up and in. So one side will have a set of tabs, and then the other side will have a set of tabs. And it doesn't really matter which way which one goes. If you're using double-sided scrapbook paper and you get your pocket all folded and you don't like the way it looks, then just reverse it. You can fold these tabs to the other side and then bring these forward. So now we're just going to fold, making sure that this edge right here lines up with the bottom here. That's the most important part, so that lines up and looks nice. Make sure you're burnishing your folds. I'm going to flip it over and fold the other side. Again, burnishing my fold. That is the pocket. It is that simple. And because I put the pocket tabs on it, I've got full use of the 3.5 inches, which to me is a big deal because I really want to make sure that I can use the whole pocket, not just part of it, where I don't have it glued flat down. I'm just having a rough time talking today. Okay, so from here, You can ink all of the edges. You could take this to your sewing machine and stitch around the here and stitch around here too. Just make sure you're not stitching on the little flaps here, your little pocket tabs. You don't want to stitch those down because that just kind of ruins the whole point of the pocket tab. So just be mindful of what you're doing at your sewing machine. You can do a thumb notch here on this side if you choose to. You could leave it plain and maybe put a ruffle or some lace or something across there. That would look really nice. So at this point, if you want to hinge this into a book and not leave it as a floating pocket, this piece that we cut off, we're going to make this the same height as the pocket, and all I do is fold it and this is just a little too wide. I want this to be 1.5 inches wide. So I'm going to take my ruler, my Tim Holtz ruler is 1.5 inches wide, and I'm just going to trim it to 1.5 inches. No need to get out my trimmer. I don't have to measure anything. I know my ruler is 1.5 inches wide. I'm just going to fold this in half. And I'm not going to tab the corners at the top of the pockets because I want it to blend in and basically disappear. I don't want it to stand out, but I am going to tab it down at the bottom because I want to remove some bulk at the bottom of the pocket. I'm going to install it on this side, not this side, but this side, and it's going to go right here. So if you're going to hinge, you want to make sure you do this step before you glue anything shut. On that note, I actually decorated my pocket before I glued it all shut. It's much easier to stamp for background stamping when it's flat than when you've got, you know, stuff going on here. So that's what I did, is I stamped some on this side and I stamped some on this side. I put a piece of washi tape on it. I basically did all my decorating before I glued the pocket together. So on this side here, we're going to put that fold just on the outside edge of this fold right here. We want it hanging out just a little tiny bit. Not a lot, just a little tiny bit. I'm using Reptile glue here. This is my favorite glue. It's got a fast grab and it doesn't slide. So I'm going to just lay that down and just like that. Okay, now that I have my hinge in place, I want to make sure that I open it up. I can go ahead and glue my pocket shut. And again, demo purposes for me, I'm not worried about stitching or anything on here. And pocket tab here, pocket tab here. You can use wet glue, score tape, whatever your preferred medium is here. And there is your pocket that now has a hinge on it. So that can just get stuck down to any page in your book, however you want it to go. Inking all of the edges. This will basically just disappear on the inside of your pocket. Once you have everything else all inked up, you're never going to see it. One of the things I did do with this paper was I ran a piece of washi tape up and over this corner right here just to give it a little more stability. This paper is pretty thin and wimpy compared to scrapbook paper. And besides that, it adds a nice decorative touch. You could glue this down into a page and run a piece of washi tape over the top of that, and you'll never see that hinge. It's just going to disappear for you. So there you have it. There is my new pocket idea with pocket tabs. I hope you like it. Let me know what you think, and I hope to talk to you again very, very soon.